The asking price compared to the ARV, the after repaired value, or the ADV, the after developed value, is the easiest way to tell the difference. And this is a no-brainer. The larger the gap between the two, the better. That's it. All right, so we want to know the as is and then what it's at its highest best. And the difference between the two means the most amount of money. And then here's the loan. If you don't know the debt owed, you should never make an offer until you do. Hands down. If you don't know the debt owed, you should never make an offer until you do. Could you imagine if the guy or gal owed only $950,000 on a property, let's say, and they're asking 1.9 because they want to make their just about $1 million. And you get in there and you beat them up on the price, and you tell them that you're only going to give them $900,000 for the property, or even less, maybe $850,000 for the property. Okay? And they say no, but maybe they're embarrassed to tell you because that's what they owe, and you never found out what they owe. When you could have went ahead and said, okay, what do you need the money for, and how much money do you need? What would you be willing to do? And they just might say, I owe X, 900,000, and if you go ahead and solve my problem, which is my high interest note, that's $100,000 that's coming due, I'll go ahead and sell you the property for $900,000 as long as you go ahead and cure my problem at $100,000. So basically you're getting it for $1 million. So you must find out what's owed on the property. Often offers will be determined by the debt owed. Even if it's an all-cash offer, you should still check to make sure it isn't higher than the existing debt. All right? Again, even if it's an all-cash offer, which rarely we ever do unless we're getting the thing just absolutely dirt cheap, all right? You should still check to make sure it isn't higher than the existing debt. And that's the example on the story that I just told you. This is repairs. You need to know if the repairs are a light cosmetic fix or a major rehab. As you know, I'm not into major rehabs, but you guys know how to get rid of fire damage, how you get rid of flood damage, how you get rid of termites, how you get rid of environmental properties. The way you do it is simple. You write a check, except it's not your money. And the mechanics to being able to write a check for a deal like that, the deal must meet other criteria. It must be only fire damage on one wall or flood damage on one area of the floor that you can replace, and it looks like a big, huge headache for everybody else. But you know the dynamics of it, and you know that there's a need for that property because it's recession-proof. And if you go ahead and solve that one little problem, that little rehab problem, we can get in there and we can make a boatload of money. The number of repairs will have a huge influence on your offer and what you can offer. Of course it does. Yeah, it's a huge difference if it's going to be $100,000 or if it's going to be $2.5 million. And a lot of times people miscalculate expenses. Believe me, I've seen a few zeros left off. And then when we do the pre-contract due diligence, we're like, wait, what do you mean? It costs how much to do this? To replace a whole roof and to go ahead and repave this thing? You're saying it's going to cost how much? Well, that's why this person could be in the problem they're in, because they miscalculated their repairs. And the way you do that is you bring in the professionals. And, you know, how much does it cost to get an estimate? Guess what? It doesn't cost anything to get estimates. Zero. And if they're going to require a retainer for them to go out and look at something, well, that's the same thing if you've ever had your water heater break in your own house. And they say that they're going to charge you $200 or $300 to come out and look at it, and then they apply that to the price. I don't play that game. Look, you want to come out and look at my water heater and fix it? You come out and look at my water heater and fix it. If not, I'm going to call the next person in the yellow pages. That's the way it works. All right? And these people understand that, especially in this day and age when people need to go out there and earn a living because they lack the knowledge on how to do it with speed and ease. All right? So you don't have to have the exact number, but you should have a ballpark figure. And then here, there won't be any repairs for vacant land, but you should have an idea what the building costs would be. You can always ask the broker owner if there are any existing plans in place. That's key. Don't let that one fly over your head. This applies here if there's any existing plans in place, any due diligence in place. I always want you to ask, has anybody else came around and sniffed around the deal? Has anybody looked around it and done any due diligence? Did they ever have any new findings? Did they ever give you documentation that you can pass along to me to help us make a decision if we're going to move forward on the deal? All right? So what's happening right now is I'm sharing strategies with you guys. You guys are getting the 5 main key players that are on your team, the 5 things that you must know before you go and move forward and make an offer. Now, what is commercial foreclosure? Because it's happening. $1 trillion coming due. It's a process that allows a lender to recover amount owed on a defaulted loan by selling or taking ownership, meaning repossession, of the property, securing the loan. It's a lot like residential foreclosures. When a borrower-owner defaults on the loan, usually the mortgage payments, the lender files something called a public default notice, also known as a NOD, or lis pendens, which literally means lawsuit pending. So this is what's happening. They missed payments for 3 to 4 months. Then what goes down is a notice of default. Then they receive that NOD, and that's public record, and that's very easy to get. And then you know that this person's in a situation. That's the time that you do your direct mail, or that you make a phone call, or you have your bird dogs do it better yet. But letters work in this position right here. About a month to 6 months, depending on the current times. Then they file lis pendens, and it's much longer than a month now. Reason being is because there's so much going on. Then a lis pendens, the lawsuit's filed, 3 to 4 months, which is more like 6 to 9 months, a final judgment, and then shortly thereafter the deal goes to auction. We're going to cover auctions and how sweet they are later. But I want you guys to get this, and I wanted to brief you on this because this is the way it works, in case you're wondering what stage. And there's different stages. There's pre-foreclosure, then of course there's foreclosure, then it goes back to the bank REO, and then it goes to the auction house. So you can acquire these properties that are distressed in different areas. And distressed doesn't mean that they're ugly. They're gorgeous properties a lot of the times. Very pretty properties sitting in very desirable areas that a lot of times people don't even know about. Why? Because the owner never put the message to the market. Why? Because they did the ostrich. Because they're in default. So what's really going on? Commercial real estate problems. Morgan Stanley lost $700 million to be second quarter from commercial real estate, lower than $1 billion reported in Q1. Wells Fargo reported stunning 69% increase in commercial loans from borrowers who were not making their payments. Non-performing assets are growing. HMN Financial Regional Bank saw $12.2 million increase in loss and provisions commercial real estate in Q2. KeyCorp, another regional bank out of Cleveland, saw non-performing assets jump to 3.09%, a jump of 30% from a previous quarter. U.S. Bank Co. reported a rise in commercial real estate delinquencies and stated it expects to continue well into next year. I paint this grim picture so you guys understand what's happening, but even in these current times, even if you're watching these DVDs and the CDs and it's years later, understand there's always distressed property. There's always people out there, but you need to act now.